Yeah, man. Great.
Cool. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk to me here. So yeah, I
Of
was
course.
actually listening to the Ray Harkin's podcast a few days ago. And I was like, oh crap! I hope he doesn't ask all the questions that I want to ask. So he didn't. So I feel good about that.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I was listening to that, and just kind of decided to check out, some of your resume and Discogs of all the albums you've had a hand in, and man, my mind almost melted. There's so many of like my top favorite albums of all time that you've worked on. So I think just to start off with, thank you, a huge thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Like so, yeah, and as I'm getting into this here, I saw a little blurb come up a few months ago about the new Be Well album. You had Darkest Hour members, Bane members, etc. Put it on my wait list. I checked it out, and initially I was blown away. And as I get older, I'm in early 40s right now, and I don't know if you feel the
Right.
same, but as I it's harder and harder to find those bands that really blow you away or impress you, you want to stick with. But instantly, Be Well, I just had that for me. So, um,
That's awesome. That's so
and,
cool. Yeah.
and
Yeah, I
once we got,
think that,
well,
I mean, I was just going to say, I think that it's definitely like, I think sometimes with newer hardcore bands that have older people, I have a hard time just because it's like what they're singing about is their youth instead of their life. Now,
yeah,
what I always connected with hardcore was like how relatable it was for me at the time. So, yeah, sorry to
n-
interrupt.
no, you're fine though. That's great. Feel free to, like I said, chime in. This is not structured, but and then what I was saying is I got into the lyrics, and then I was even more blown away. And then that's when I was like, I gotta reach out and talk to Brian about the lyrics and the message, and so that's what we're gonna kind of dig in here with, if that's all right with you.
Awesome. Yeah.
Um, cool. First off, how did the band come to be? And I guess what was the initial thought process behind that? What would it sound like and the lyrical contact? Was that like a predefined thing or it just kind of emerged into what it is now?
No, I think that it we definitely never talked about it. I think it was it I think that like everybody in the band, everybody's like old hardcore kids. Like
Hmm.
even Mike, who's in Darkest Hour, who's gone in like a super death metal direction. I knew him as like a vegan straight edge kid at battery shows. So it's not all of us kind of grew up listening to hardcore. So I think that everybody wanted it to have like I think everybody wanted something that felt nostalgic on one hand, but like new on the other hand. Like I think that the record ended up kind of representing like where we come from and where we are.
Hmm.
Well, I feel like, and I mean, for me, I just wanted something that was like high energy, heartfelt, and like made me feel the way records. I mean, this is a lofty goal, but the records that I grew up made me feel.
Yeah.
And I think that the cool thing is that like everybody in the band is experienced players, and it's like it just kind of came together really naturally. And I think that it's funny because it's like there's like one hand where people are like, oh, this sounds like new battery, and then other people are like,
Hmm.
it sounds like the Get Up Kids, and I'm like, what the fuck? I don't think any of that. I mean, I think it's a reflection of the music we grew up listening to and the music we love, and I think that you know, I have never really been in a band where we made a conscious decision to be anything specific. I mean, Battery obviously was like we were so young, and it was like we fucking loved youth crew hardcore, so it was that. But I still think it kind of a little bit had its own spin to it even back then.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I definitely, it's funny you mentioned the Get Up Kids because I definitely, when I was listening to it, I'm like, I picked up a twinge of that. I was like, oh, I could see that a little bit in here. So that's funny. Sometimes I hear those things. I'm like, maybe I'm crazy, but that's interesting.
I mean, like, so yeah. I mean, I love to get it. I mean, I think you can just kind of hear what we love to listen to, and I'm not like we definitely. I mean, I don't think we definitely didn't set out to sound like anything in particular, but I also think that like we didn't set out to become like Radiohead and change the landscape of music either. I mean, I think we just wanted to make music that we love to play and love to listen to and like have an opportunity to continue to like contribute to a community that we all love dearly.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Um, and that kind of leads into the next question. When I was younger, I played in some bands, we toured, and that was the only thing that mattered and it defined my life. And I still have a strong desire to do that, but with a family and kids now, there's a logistical balance, but also a heart balance of wanting, like, oh, I got to not be with my kids tonight to do this band thing. And I guess,
Yeah.
like, I'm reading lyrics. It sounds like you have a family now. And what is it like to be making music at this stage of your life with a family and balancing that all?
I mean, everybody, the one thing that's cool is everybody in the band has kids. So I think that I think it helps in terms of like people understanding what people can and can't do and why. Like it's like, oh, it's somebody's birthday, like, got it. It's not like an argument or a fight or, everybody has like a sensitivity to it. For me, I think that it's been like a blessing for my family in that I feel like reconnecting with music has helped me like let's see. It's helped me be in better touch with like my emotional self. And
Okay.
with that, I feel like closer to my wife and closer to my daughter. I feel like they're able to see like they've been like incredibly supportive actually, like be well and kind of me getting back into producing because I had actually taken a break from that as well. Like my wife like 100% encouraged me to do it and was just like, you need to have something that you can pour your heart into. And honestly, like I just don't know that I've ever been able to express myself truly and honestly any other way. And I think a lot of that is like, I mean, I started going to shows when I was 10, and like my religion was hardcore and punk, and my role models and my heroes were bands and you know
Yep.
and record labels and like my like kind of whole worldview and like moral compass has been shaped by the words and the bands and the records and in turn like I feel like I have always been able to be like my most sincere when and most honest when I'm writing. I feel like there's something about music that just lets it come out. And in like day to day life, I'm not like that. I have a really, really, really hard time. Like, I have a really hard time like talking to people about what I'm going through, what I'm feeling. I like, I think the nature of being like a producer, you're kind of, I don't want to say like in charge, but you kind of like, you you have to be the captain of the ship. It's like
Yeah.
part of the job. And I think with that, I hate asking people for favors. I hate talking to people about things like, and I know that's not good. And there's something about like hardcore in particular that it's like the like canvas where I can just be my truest self.
Did you find it, were you afraid? Did you find it hard to broach some of the content, the lyrical content that is on the new Be Well album?
I I I didn't at first because I didn't really think I didn't start writing any of this with the intention of it becoming what it's become, in a sense. Like, I more just felt like I missed playing music, I missed writing lyrics, I missed writing, like, having things to look forward to in my life. And really, at first, I was just writing because it was like I desperately needed to, and I feel like I wasn't worried at all about like what people would think or how it would connect, because I just didn't think anybody would hear it, and then, like, in a sense. and and I think that it did allow me to um I think it did allow me to, like, be a little bit more fearless and open than maybe I would have. I think that but I didn't also totally process, like, how, I don't want to say dark. It's I don't I don't perceive the record to be dark. I know that it's
Mm,
a heavy and it's an emotional record,
yeah.
but for me it was cathartic and positive, and for me it helped me, like, I don't like the idea that saying something that you feel inside of yourself that you're scared to say is somehow negative, like, or too dark or too heavy, in a sense. And I
Yeah.
feel like I have never been more honest with myself than I was when I was writing this record. And,
Mm.
like, to me, that's positive. Like, to me, that's hopeful. It helped me not only, like, make sense of a lot of the things that I was feeling, but it also, like, helped me share things that I really needed to share with the people that I love most in the world, and, like, my wife, my daughter, my friends, like, the world at
Wow.
large. Like, I just feel like it's heavy, but it's not a negative record. Like, I don't perceive it as, like,
I would
it can be sad. Yeah.
I would agree, and I've put together some notes here, before our call, and that's why I said, obviously that this album deals a lot with depression, and that's one of the reasons, Posicore is, just that the PMA kind of attitude, and when I started reading your lyrics, it was like, this has an undertone of hope to it because you're actually addressing these things in an honest way to move forward and deal with them, and I guess I wanted to
Right.
kind of, reach out and say, what are, a lot of people deal with depression, and what are some things, that you do or have done that have actually been successful or beneficial for you and those around you?
Well, I think, like, acknowledging it was, like, a huge first step for me, because I think that when I was younger, it kind of manifested as, like, anger and craziness and rebellion, and, like, a lot of things. Like, I kind of masked that I was in a lot of pain by, like, acting out and getting in trouble and being kind of a, like, wild kid. And then as I got older, I just buried it, to be quite
Yeah.
honest with you. And that made things, like, when I was working on records, it kind of made it so it was there, but I always had things to, like, pour that energy into. And then when I didn't have that anymore, it just, the only way I could, like, without, like, talking about it, the only way I could actually cope with it was to, like, totally, like, numb myself and, like, do anything I could to kind of try and ignore it. Now I'm trying to, like, I I've continued to try and write every day. I'm like, I like walking, running, like, spending time with, like, my dogs, seeing friends. Like, I went through a phase where I was pretty, like, socially phobic, where it kind of felt like it just, I don't know. I There's, like, a part of me that feels like the onset of social media made things a lot harder for me to, like express myself. Even, like, I kind of felt like, wow, like, everybody is either totally fake or their lives are just so much fucking better than mine. Like, and both, either one made me feel very like alone, you know? And like, I don't know, just like the fact that like just making this record and having so many people that I care about really know what was going on with me. I I just don't think that I've ever done anything in my life that has like helped me as much as that has. And
Yeah.
like I don't want to make it seem like Be Well it's like some self-help record. Like honestly, like there is a component of that which I think it exists with any art, but I just fucking love music and hardcore, and it's so fun. It's not like that's the only thing, but it is like was an unintended byproduct of doing it, which is like everybody in my life knows what's going on with me. And like
Yeah.
that's never existed before. And like I feel like I feared that people would not understand, and people have understood on a level that like I could have never imagined. And that in and of itself has been like incredibly therapeutic. And
Mm.
like instead of like sitting here, because it's not like the thing about depression, it's like it's gonna be something I'm struggling with for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It just it's it's a chemical. It's been in my family. Like both of my brothers have struggled with it. My parents have struggled with it. My grandmother struggled with it. Like, but if like accepting that it is a part of me, and a kind of understanding that it's not the only part of me too. Like I think that when I wasn't talking about it, when I was, and people just didn't know, um, I think that you kind of suffer alone, and you kind of like have a storyline that can grow and can take a shape that it just doesn't warrant in a sense. Like
Yeah.
the reality for me is like most of the things that like were the hardest were pretty like unimpressive thoughts to begin with. Like feeling like I'm a failure, feeling like I'm not the father that I wanted to be, feeling like people would never understand what I'm going through. Like all of that stuff is pretty like manageable. It's only when you put a lid on it, let it boil, let it start to overflow, that it becomes hard to like deal with. So I mean, I don't know. I guess getting back to what you're asking is, I'm trying to just. I feel like what's been effective for me with dealing with like anxiety and depression is like not pretending that it doesn't exist and not hiding it from the people around me. And
Yeah.
those have been the two like single most effective things that I've done.
Well, I think that's great, and I actually think, I think this album is going to be, if it probably already is, just a huge blessing to people who are, in the midst of, COVID-19, just so much more isolated. And if that was already something that they're
Right.
dealing with, right, this is just added weight on top. So I think this is a timely album. It's a powerful album. Like, I'm just thank you and all the guys for putting it out, because it's a wonderful album. I really truly enjoy it. And I guess real quick before we wrap up, like I know we're in a crazy time where bands aren't touring, bands aren't playing, but is there, if the world were to open up here in the next 3, 4, 6 months, would there be, or is there any talk of touring or shows or anything of that
Oh,
nature?
I mean, we want to play as soon as we can. I mean, sadly, we had a European tour booked for March that we just had to cancel because things are spiking
Yeah.
there again. And, we've been talking about like doing some like outdoor socially distanced things. I just I don't know. I, 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 I'm hoping that things get better. I'm hoping people start to act like a little bit more responsibly. I hope that there end up being like some changes with the leadership in our country. And the second we can play, like we want to. And I'm thankful like every day that like like we snuck in our first headlining show, like a record release first, our single 7-inch before all this shit happened. And it was really the first like be well show. Like we up until that point we had always been like first of four,
Yeah.
and this was like our first show where people came to see us, and it was so awesome to like, it was like one of the best nights of my life. Sold out. People knew the band. People were paying attention, and I got to at least go into this like dark abyss, COVID abyss, knowing what it potentially could be like when we get out of it. So I'm thankful that we had that before everything went crazy.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, I hope sooner than later I can catch you guys when you come through Milwaukee
Oh
or
yeah,
Chicago or
where do you
somewhere.
live?
Yeah, I'm from Milwaukee, so I saw that you worked on the Promise Ring record. Those are some gentlemen that I know.
Yeah. I just did their split with Texas is a Reason, but it was
Yeah,
very, very, very awesome. Like I love those guys.
super cool.
Yeah.
Well, hey Brian, I won't take up any more time. I really, man, thank you for this album. Thank you for all the work you've done throughout the
Yeah, man.
couple decades.
And then just, yeah, and just stay in touch. I mean, if we're coming through or whatever, just hit me up anytime.
Would love to do that. Thanks again, man.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Have a good night.
Nice talking with you.
Bye bye.